Magic Emperor Chapter 881. He Tianfeng stared blankly at his father's back with deep skepticism. He didn't understand why his dad had suddenly become so unusually kind. The man even took the initiative to save a beautiful female stranger. A mischievous thought popped up, and the boy grinned slyly, shouting that his dad should just go ahead and use medical treatment as an excuse for his private business, and that he'd report it to mom the first chance he got. Hearing that, Xu Fan almost tripped and turned back to glare at his son, asking if the kid was trying to sabotage him. While reminding him of the major incident in Feiyan City a month ago, Hu Tianfeng immediately answered that it was the robbery at the Feiyan King's mansion, but then he froze and pointed at the girl as he realized his father's underlying hint. Xu Fan nodded, confirming the girl was likely linked to that case, so they needed to save her to gather vital info, then urged his son to go prep a room right away. Hu Tianfeng got serious instantly and quickly bolted to the backyard to get the accommodations ready. Xu Fan brought the girl into the room, laid her on the bed, and started channeling his power, placing his hand on her forehead to perform the return of the dragon's roar technique. A powerful sound echoed as a surge of green light flooded the girl's body like tidal waves. Her external wounds began healing rapidly and visibly right before their eyes. However, after the light faded, she still hadn't woken up, and her breathing remained very faint. Hu Tianfeng curiously asked his dad if something went wrong with the move, since it was usually super effective against strong opponents. Xu Fan explained that at higher cultivation levels, injuries aren't just physical but hit the soul deep down, and since this girl was a master, her soul was severely damaged and needed specialized treatment rather than just basic first aid. Hu Tianfeng nodded like he totally got the point. Little San, stay here and keep a close eye on her. I need to go into seclusion for 3 days to refine a special pill for the soul and can't be disturbed, Xu Fan instructed before standing up to head out. Hu Tianfeng asked in surprise if none of the meds they were carrying would work. Xu Fan replied that none of their current stock was a match, while his eyes showed he was deep in thought. The girl's soul wasn't just badly hurt, it carried a very strange mark. This reminded him of the scar left by the Sky Sunderer sword on his own arm. This weird energy buildup could only be cured by a custom-made pill. In the dark secret chamber, a furnace was pumping out intense heat, filling the space with a heavy scent of herbs. Under the flickering firelight, Xu Fan's silhouette gradually emerged. He sat motionless facing the furnace, eyes closed and focused intensely on the refining process like a statue. Suddenly, the surrounding space shook violently, and the furnace started vibrating hard as if it were about to blow. After a loud bang, the lid popped off, and a glowing golden pill flew out like it was trying to make a break for it. Right then, Xu Fan snapped his eyes open, watched the escaping pill, and quickly used a spell to stop it. The pill stopped dead in mid-air, unable to move another inch. Xu Fan smiled with satisfaction, pulled out a small porcelain bottle, and signaled to pull the pill inside. The pill quickly dropped into the bottle like a captured prisoner. Only then did Xu Fan feel safe enough to cap the bottle, let out a sigh of relief, and walk out of the room to rest. Focusing on refining for 3 days straight was a real test of his physical stamina. Under the blazing sun, Xu Fan took a deep breath to shake off the fatigue and headed toward the backyard. He opened the door and entered the room where the girl was being treated. Inside, Hu Tianfeng was waiting with a tired and bored expression. The girl still lay motionless, her delicate features making her look like she was in a deep sleep. Xu Fan smiled and asked his son how she'd been over the last 3 days. Hu Tianfeng was stoked to see his dad back, and complained that babysitting someone who didn't move for days was a total drag. Xu Fan joked that getting to take care of such a beauty was an opportunity many would kill for, but his son just didn't know how to appreciate it. Hu Tianfeng acted like he didn't care and sighed while looking at his currently small physique. Xu Fan left and comforted his son, saying his body would grow as his power increased, then stepped closer to check the girl's health. Hu Tianfeng silently watched his father's every move. After checking her pulse, Xu Fan noticed the girl's condition was stable and could still be saved in time. Then, Xu Fan took the freshly refined pill out of the bottle. He carefully placed the pill into the girl's mouth. The pill dissolved instantly, turning into a refreshing energy that spread throughout her body. The girl shivered slightly and frowned before falling back into a deep sleep with her complexion gradually turning rosier. Hu Tianfeng wondered why she hadn't woken up yet and seemed skeptical about the pill's effectiveness. Xu Fan insisted this high-grade pill definitely worked, but since her injuries were so severe, she needed more time to recover, while reminding his son to keep a close watch so she wouldn't slip away. After giving instructions, Xu Fan prepared to leave the room. However, Hu Tianfeng wasn't having it, and asked why he had to keep staying there alone, while his dad planned to go somewhere else. "Where do you think you're going, Dad?" Zhuo Fan made up an excuse that he needed to refine more tonics so he could get away. He told himself that refining was exhausting and he was only doing it so the girl would recover quickly to gather info. But just as he was about to step out, a sudden flash of light blocked his path. Tam Fong acted all huffy and claimed his dad was lying, since they already had plenty of high-grade tonics and didn't need to make more. Zhuo Fan got awkward and tried to find another reason to explain, but failed. Before he could say anything, Tam Fong decided to let his dad stay and watch while he quickly ran off to play. The boy vanished in a heartbeat at extreme speed. Zhuo Fan tried calling his son back, but the kid was already long gone. Looking at the girl still lying there, and the direction his son just bolted, Zhuo Fan could only let out a helpless sigh. He complained that staying behind to watch someone sleep was boring as hell, while he wanted to head out and see what was going on in the city. In reality, neither father nor son liked jobs that required patience and were this dull. They were naturally men of action, so having to do meticulous, time-consuming tasks was a massive pain for them. However, since his son had already bailed, Zhuo Fan had no choice but to stay behind alone to finish the job.